The triple suns of Talmaran rose over a world that should have been silent, but wasn't. The winds carried faint electrical murmurs across the plains, the dust shimmered with static, and deep below the surface, something pulsed with a rhythm that defied geology. It was not music. It was not language. It was the kind of vibration that hinted at purpose. Bastion 9, an orbital research station built in the early expansion age, drifted above the world's pale atmosphere. Once a mining hub, now mostly abandoned, it served as a forward base for independent explorers, the kind who sought truth long after empires stopped caring about it. Arian Vale stood before the main viewport, watching the planet roll beneath him. He was a tall, deliberate man, lean in the way people became after years of rationed meals and field work. His hands were scarred from real labor, not combat, and his dark eyes carried a glint of relentless calculation. In the glass reflection, he looked older than he felt. The station's engineer, Yara Tenebris, joined him with a datapad under one arm. "Telemetry from the probes just came in," she said. "You're going to like it or hate it, depending on your appetite for trouble." Arian didn't turn. "Go on. The southern hemisphere fault line isn't natural. It's a near-perfect helix carved deep into the crust. And before you ask, no seismic process we know can make that shape." He finally looked at her. "You ran isotope scans?" "Of course." "Metallic residue along the edges, an alloy I've never seen in the Guild archives. Conductive beyond reason, stable even under 5,000 degrees. Artificial then?" Yara nodded grimly. "Artificial and very old." Arian let the words hang in the air between them. Artificial meant designed. Designed meant intention, and intention meant intelligence. In the quiet corridors of the frontier, that word still carried weight. Intelligence. It had started wars before. "Run a secondary spectral sweep," he said. "I want to know if it's active." "Already did. It's dormant, but the field resonance is strange. It changes when we observe it. When the probes record, the readings drift." "Observer effect," Arian said quietly. "At least partly." "Partly," she agreed, "unless the thing's watching back." He smiled faintly at that. Yara had a gift for understatement. They stood together for a while, watching the light curve around the world. Beyond Bastion 9's hull, the suns reflected off Talmaran's equatorial storms like molten glass. Humanity had crossed the stars chasing resources, then meaning, then pride. Now it crossed them simply to survive. The Guild of Seekers, Arian's organization, was a remnant of that first, reckless curiosity. It had no armies, no fleets, only its explorers, bound by oath and obsession. Yara broke the silence. "The Guild won't fund another expedition if this one fails." "I know. Then why are you calm about it?" He turned back to the viewport. "Because if this works, it won't matter what the Guild thinks. We'll have proof, maybe even a bridge to whoever or whatever built that structure." Her expression softened, though she tried to hide it. "You think this is another architect's site?" "I think it's older," he said, "and I think it's waiting." The descent craft, vigilant, hung in its docking clamps like a steel seed ready to fall. Its hull was scored by micrometeor impacts, patched more times than anyone could count, but every bolt had been checked twice. Arian ran his palm along the side as he approached. The metal was cold, but he swore he could feel a faint vibration beneath it, as if the ship itself shared his anticipation. 6 people formed the landing team: Arian, Yara, Joran, Senna, Mech, and Leo. Each brought a different strength. Joran handled sensors and mapping, brilliant but careless. Senna was the linguist and historian, quiet and unnervingly patient. Mech, the field medic, had once served in the outer wars but rarely spoke of it. Leo was the youngest, a pilot raised on asteroid haulers, half wild and untested. They gathered near the ramp as the engines hummed to readiness. "Final diagnostics green," Joran reported. "Surface conditions stable enough for descent, though I'd prefer less likely to die over stable." "That's the closest you'll get from me," Yara replied dryly. Arian stepped forward. "You all know why we're here. The core worlds think the frontier's empty. They're wrong. We've seen the signs, structures, patterns, remnants that don't match any known culture. Talmaran might be the key to understanding what came before us. Senna's voice was soft but firm. "And if it's a tomb, then we'll learn from it," Arian said. "And if it's not, we'll be the first to meet whatever built it." Mayek smirked. "You make that sound like a good thing." He ignored the remark and signaled for boarding. The ramp retracted, sealing them inside the narrow cabin. The Vigilant detached from Bastion 9 with a shudder, its retro thrusters firing in brief pulses. Gravity shifted as the ship descended toward the ochre clouds below. Atmospheric entry was rougher than expected. The Vigilant's stabilizers groaned, and bolts rattled like teeth in the hull. The pressure alarms wailed, then cut off abruptly as they passed through the upper layers of storm. Lightning forked across the viewports, turning the cabin white for a heartbeat at a time. Leo grinned like a lunatic at the controls. "We are through the worst of it." "That's what you said 30 seconds ago," Yara shot back. Optimism's part of the job description. The clouds thinned, revealing the ground below, a jagged landscape of red rock and crystalline spires, divided by the massive wound that stretched from horizon to horizon. The rift was vast, kilometers across, swallowing light. It was no ordinary canyon. Its walls were too smooth, its symmetry too precise. Even from the air, Arian could tell it wasn't shaped by erosion or tectonics. They landed near the northern rim, on a plateau that offered a direct view into the depths. Dust swirled around the landing struts, settling in faint metallic glitter. When the ramp lowered, a gust of charged air met them, thin, dry, carrying a scent like burnt copper. Suit seals confirmed, they stepped out one by one. The ground beneath their boots vibrated softly, not enough to destabilize footing, but enough to notice. Yara checked her wrist scanner. Microseismic activity, consistent but shallow, like the world's breathing. "Let's hope it keeps breathing," Mac muttered. They advanced toward the edge. The rift's walls descended in a spiral, descending into darkness so complete it devoured their headlamps. Arian knelt, running his gloved fingers along the lip. The surface felt like obsidian, but when he tapped it, the material rang faintly, metal, not stone. "Recording sample coordinates," Senna said. Her tone was hushed, reverent. "This patterning isn't random. Look at these lines, repeating vectors at regular intervals." Yara scanned them. "They're power channels, energy distribution conduits." "Still active?" Arian asked. "Barely. A trace current, like static charge left over from something massive." He stood. "We need to see where it leads. Joran, deploy the drones." Joran unpacked 2 small spherical drones and released them into the air. They descended into the rift, lights flickering as they dropped. The first transmitted steady footage of winding walls covered in engraved patterns, angular, precise, alien. The second drone's feed began to distort, static crawling across the screen. "Interference," Joran said. "Something's blocking the signal." "How deep?" Arian asked. 70 meters. "Then that's where we go." Yara stared at him. "You're joking." "Do I sound like it?" "Arian, we don't even know what caused the interference." "Exactly," he said simply, "and we're here to know." They spent an hour securing climbing lines and anchor points. The descent was slow and methodical. Dust drifted like snowflakes around them as they moved down the smooth walls, their helmet lights cutting narrow paths through the dark. At 50 meters, the air grew denser. Their suits, external sensors picked up trace electromagnetic activity, rising steadily. Yara's display flickered. "You seeing this? Frequency oscillations at 2-second intervals." "Keep recording," Arian said. "We'll analyze later." At 70 meters, they found the source. The wall opened into a vast chamber, an artificial cavity carved from the bedrock. The walls gleamed with a faint internal light, not reflection but emission. In the center rose a construct of impossible geometry, its surfaces shifting subtly like liquid metal solidifying in slow motion. Joran's voice dropped to a whisper. "We found it." Senna stared in awe. "It's not erosion, not even machinery, it's intentional." The structure towered above them, featureless except for faint grooves that spiraled inward toward its core. At regular intervals, the grooves flared with light, each pulse synchronized perfectly with the faint tremors underfoot. Arian approached. "Yara, measure field intensity." She did, then frowned. Fluctuating, it reacts to movement. He moved closer still. The readings spiked. Definitely reacting, she said sharply. Step back. He ignored her. There was something about the construct, its quiet symmetry, its precision, that felt like a challenge. Not a trap, not hostility, but expectation. Humanity had always been a species that answered such calls. He reached out and touched the surface. It was cold, then suddenly, impossibly warm, like something alive shifting beneath the skin of the world. His suit sensors exploded with warnings. Light flared from the structure, filling the chamber in white brilliance. "Arian," Yara shouted. He stumbled back, disoriented, his vision blurred. For an instant, the world fractured. He saw diagrams, impossible machines, endless networks stretching across space. Then everything vanished. When his sight returned, the chamber was quiet again. The structure's glow had dimmed. "Status?" he asked hoarsely. Yara's hands flew over her console. "Power surge localized, suit integrity intact. What the hell did you do?" "Made contact," he said simply. It responded. Senna's eyes were wide. It responded how? By showing me something, not in words, not even in images, more like understanding. A map maybe, or a memory. Mayak crouched near a wall. Whatever it was, it activated something deeper. "I can feel air currents. There's an opening down here." They followed him to the far edge of the chamber. A narrow passage had appeared in the smooth surface, as if the material had melted away. Beyond it, faint light flickered. Arian looked at the others. "No one goes in alone. We proceed together." Yara sighed. "You realize we are walking straight into the mouth of the unknown." "That's where progress lives," he replied and stepped through. The tunnel sloped downward, smooth as glass. The light came from veins in the walls, thin filaments of energy running like capillaries. The further they went, the stronger the readings grew. The hum was no longer seismic. It was deliberate, rhythmic. Not a song, not emotion, but operation, machinery the size of continents. After 20 minutes of cautious descent, the tunnel opened into another vast space, larger than any constructed chamber humanity had ever recorded. Platforms hung in the air, suspended by invisible fields. Columns of energy rose like pillars, connecting ground to ceiling. And in the center, half shrouded in mist, something floated. It wasn't a being, nor a machine in any conventional sense. It was a lattice of intersecting planes, constantly rearranging itself, forming patterns that dissolved and reformed too quickly for the human eye to track. It was beautiful and terrible all at once. Senna's voice trembled. "Arian, what is that?" "I don't know," he said softly, "but it's aware." The lattice pulsed. The tremors ceased. A single tone filled the air, not musical but mathematical, a precise frequency that bypassed sound entirely and went straight to comprehension. "Identify." The word wasn't heard, but it was undeniable. Arian took a steady breath. "We're explorers, human, we seek to understand." A pause, then another pulse. "Human, you are late." "Late for what?" "Reactivation." Yara's eyes widened. "Arian, whatever this is, it's expecting something." The lattice shimmered again, expanding slightly, as if tasting the air. "We were meant to rebuild the network. The builders fell. You are their echo," Senna whispered. "It knows about the architects." Arian stepped forward carefully. "If we're echoes, then tell us, what are you?" Continuation. The lattice brightened until their visors dimmed automatically. The ground shook, not violently, but with a resonance that made the air throb in their chests. All around them, the walls of the chamber began to change, sections sliding away to reveal machinery buried deeper still. "Arian," Yara said, voice tight, "it's powering up something massive. Then we need to understand it before it finishes." He looked up at the lattice. "What is the network?" The answer came as a cascade of symbols across their suit displays, converting into data streams their systems struggled to decode. Joran gasped. "It's transmitting, direct interface through our scanners. Can you block it?" "Not without cutting all power." "Then don't," Arian said. "Record everything." The lattice pulsed again, stronger. "You are the inheritors. Do not fail as they did." And then, as suddenly as it had awakened, the light vanished. The lattice collapsed inward, disintegrating into a cloud of glowing dust that drifted like vapor, then sank into the floor. All systems normalized. The tremors stopped. "What just happened?" Mech asked. Arian stood motionless, his expression unreadable. "I think," he said slowly, "we've just been given a responsibility." Responsibility for what? He looked back toward the tunnel they'd come from. The structure behind them was silent again, but the faint hum in the distance had changed, faster, steadier, alive. For whatever comes next. The data feed from their suits filled the Vigilant S onboard archive until it overflowed. Yara's console struggled to compress the incoming streams, schematics, energy readings, fragments of language and geometry too complex for current human systems to interpret. The construct beneath Talmaran had given them more in an hour than the Guild of Seekers had gathered in a decade. But Arian Vale didn't feel triumphant. Standing in the chamber's fading light, he felt something far colder, the awareness of scale. Humanity was small, fragile, and late to the story written in this planet's bones. "Is it stable?" he asked finally. Yara ran another diagnostic. So far, the energy output spiked for 7 seconds after the structure dissolved, then dropped to baseline. Nothing catastrophic. Mayek turned slowly, scanning the walls. "Baseline for this thing could still melt a city." "Point taken," Yara said. "But for now, it's quiet." Arian stepped toward the platform where the lattice had hovered. The metal under his boots hummed faintly, residual energy, not random. He crouched, tracing a line of faint symbols burned into the surface. They weren't decorative. They were coordinates, or perhaps instructions. Senna knelt beside him. "These markings match fragments we've seen in ruins on Orthais Prime and Calder Station. Architect script, possibly. The grammar's different, but the logic's the same. Recursive patterning, self-referential syntax. It encodes layers of meaning depending on the observer's interpretation. Meaning it adapts." "Yes," she said. "It adjusts to whoever's reading it." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's not a message to us, maybe it's a message through us." Senna frowned. "That's a dangerous way to think, Arian. Everything worth knowing is dangerous." He stood and turned toward the others. "Let's get back to the surface. We've got what we came for." The ascent was slower than before. The air in the shaft felt heavier now, as though gravity itself had thickened. Their climbing lines vibrated softly under tension, each echoing tremor suggesting movement deep below. But no new quakes came. The rift seemed content to let them go. When they emerged onto the plateau, the light had shifted. The triple suns hung lower in the sky, casting shadows like blades across the horizon. Dust storms churned in the distance, and lightning danced across the far ridges. Joran sealed the vigilance ramp behind them and exhaled. "Never thought I'd say this, but I missed the sound of regular air." Mayek dropped his helmet onto the bench. "You mean air that doesn't hum?" "Exactly." Arian didn't remove his helmet. He stood at the viewport, staring down at the rift. The surface around it had changed subtly. Veins of light now traced the spiral's edge, faint but visible. Whatever they'd awakened wasn't dormant anymore. Yara noticed it too. That wasn't glowing before. "No," Arian said quietly. "It was." Senna leaned closer to the window. "Could it be a side effect? Energy bleed from the activation?" "Maybe," Yara said, "but energy bleed doesn't move in patterns. Look." The light traced outward, branching across the plains like a network of rivers. It pulsed at regular intervals, once every few seconds, steady as a heartbeat. Joran muttered, "I don't like that timing." Arian turned. "Prep the engines. We're heading back to Bastion 9. The Vigilant lifted off with a roar, rising through the thin air until the rift was a dark scar beneath them. The luminous patterns stretched farther than they'd realized, hundreds of kilometers, a web of energy spreading toward the poles. It wasn't chaotic. It was engineered. Yara's displays filled with data. Transmission spikes along the grid. "Frequency matches the signal we picked up in the chamber." "Then it's not isolated," Arian said. "It's a planetary system." Senna's brow furrowed. "Or part of one, meaning this might be a node, a relay, something that connects to others like it, maybe even across worlds." Joran let out a low whistle. So we just woke up a cosmic communications hub. Great. Not communications, Yara corrected. It's moving power, massive amounts of it. Whatever's happening down there isn't about talking, it's about doing. Mayak crossed his arms. Doing what? No one answered. By the time they docked with Bastion 9, the station's automated systems had already detected the anomaly. Lights flickered as the onboard AI struggled to recalibrate orbital sensors. In the main control room, a holographic projection of Talmaran now showed expanding rings of energy circling the planet. Yara stared at it in disbelief. It's synchronizing with the magnetosphere. That shouldn't be possible without intent, Arian finished. It's repairing itself. Repairing what? He didn't answer. His mind was already racing ahead, connecting fragments, the lattice's words, the coordinates, the pulsing grid. The term reactivation echoed in his memory. Senna joined them at the console. I've been running comparisons between the markings we recorded and guild archives. There's a partial match from a deep space derelict found 50 years ago in the Caro's belt. What kind of match? Arian asked. Structural design, energy conduits, syntax of inscriptions, same builders, the architects, or their successors, Senna said quietly. The derelict was hollow, stripped clean inside. Whoever came after them might have scavenged the technology. Arian considered that, if this is a relay, there could be more like it. Dozens, she said. Hundreds, maybe. Yara looked up from her console. Arian, I've got a new data stream coming through. It's not from the planet, it's coming toward it. He moved beside her. From where? Deep space. Triangulating, it's aligned with the outer perimeter of the helix cluster. Signal strength rising. Can you decode it? Not yet. It's layered, encrypted, or fragmented. Mayak frowned. You think we woke something up out there too? Arian didn't answer immediately. No, I think whatever was waiting for this activation just realized it finally happened. Hours passed. The crew split duties. Yara and Joran handled analysis. Senna cross-referenced linguistic data. Mech monitored system integrity, and Leo maintained orbit stabilization. Arian moved among them, offering guidance, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He found himself standing once more before the viewport, the planet below streaked with lines of light. Each pulse now reached higher into the atmosphere, thin trails of ionization forming above the storms. The entire world was changing, and he had no idea whether it was evolving or warning. Yara joined him quietly. You haven't slept, neither have you. Difference is, I'm used to it. You look like a man who's trying to predict the future. He gave a short laugh. I'm trying to make sure we still have one. She leaned against the frame beside him. You really think this world could be dangerous? I think it's indifferent, and indifference is more dangerous than malice. Then maybe we should leave it alone. Arian turned toward her. Would you? She hesitated, then smiled faintly. No, but I'd like the option. He nodded. That's what makes us human. Later, in the mess hall, Senna spread her findings across the hollow table. These symbols here, repeated in every major ruin we've catalogued, form a kind of recursive equation. It describes motion, not language. Translation suggests propagation. Propagation of what? Joran asked through a mouthful of ration bar. Energy, she said, or life. The same pattern is used in both biological and mechanical design. It's a blueprint. For machines that can replicate, Yara asked sharply, or worlds that can, Mayak leaned forward. You're saying these constructs could rebuild ecosystems? Possibly. The architects were supposed to be creators, not conquerors. Maybe this is their legacy, a system designed to restore dead planets. Yara tapped the projection. Except this one isn't dead, and it's changing faster than any natural process. Senna nodded slowly, which means it's adapting to new input us. Arian listened silently. The conversation confirmed what he already suspected. Humanity had interfered with something that wasn't broken. Now it was rewriting itself to account for their presence. Leo's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, we've got movement on the surface grid. You'll want to see this. They hurried to the observation deck. On the planet below, one of the glowing lines brightened, expanding outward until it formed a perfect circle hundreds of kilometers wide. Within it, the terrain shimmered and then shifted. Mountains rose where plains had been moments before, sculpted in seconds by forces invisible to their senses. Terraforming, Yara breathed. Real-time planetary engineering. Mayek swore under his breath. It's rebuilding the planet, not rebuilding, Arian said. Reinitializing, Senna looked stricken. Then it's not repairing the world, it's replacing it. The next 12 hours were chaos. Bastion 9's orbit became unstable as magnetic interference increased. The surface continued to reshape itself, new geological formations, atmospheric composition shifting toward unknown parameters, radiation signatures spiking and fading unpredictably. They had triggered something vast and unstoppable. We need to warn the guild, Yara said. They'll send containment teams. Containment won't work, Arian replied. You can't contain a planet. Then what do you suggest? Watching until it turns the whole system inside out. He stared at the display, the glowing web spreading further each hour. I suggest understanding it before anyone else does, because if we don't, someone will weaponize it. That silenced the room. Joran finally muttered, You really think that's what they'll do? I know it, Arian said. The moment the guild or the core worlds hear about a self-replicating planetary network, they'll see control, not knowledge. Senna folded her arms. And if understanding it gets us killed, then at least it'll be our choice. By the following day, the transmissions from deep space had intensified. Yara finally broke through the encryption, revealing a pattern that made no sense. It's not a message, she said. It's a handshake. Handshake? Mek asked. Like communication, like synchronization, two systems trying to align timing protocols, the planetary grid S responding in kind. Arian's pulse quickened. So whatever's sending this is part of the same network, she finished. And it's still active. Senna stepped forward. If that's true, then there are others. Worlds like this, maybe a whole chain of them waiting for reactivation. And we just lit the first beacon, Yara said darkly. A long silence followed. Arian finally spoke. Then we have to find the next one before anyone else does. If we understand how they connect, maybe we can control the process or stop it if we have to. Mayek raised an eyebrow. You're talking about leaving already? We barely survived one planet. I'm talking about preventing a galactic-scale chain reaction, Arian said. If this system wakes the rest, the consequences could reshape everything humanity knows. Senna nodded reluctantly. He's right. We can't unsee this. The guild will send retrieval ships once they detect the energy spikes. When they do, they'll want control. We have a narrow window to stay ahead. Yara exhaled. You're suggesting we go rogue. I'm suggesting we stay human, he replied. Curiosity built us. Let's make sure it doesn't destroy us. That night, Arian stood alone at the viewport. Below, Talmaran's surface pulsed like a living organism, reshaping itself under invisible guidance. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't welcoming. It was simply awake. He wondered what the architects had seen when they built it. Did they imagine successors like him, fragile, imperfect, but relentless? Or had they known that everything intelligent eventually built its own replacement? The stars above glittered cold and steady. Somewhere out there, the other nodes waited, silent, dormant, watching. Humanity had just rung a bell that hadn't sounded in eons, and somewhere far away, something had answered. Bastion 9's internal lights dimmed to amber as the emergency power cycle began. The station was stable, but the energy signature from Talmaran had thrown every orbital sensor into confusion. The systems weren't built to handle a planet that was rewriting its own electromagnetic field. Arian Vale stood at the central command console with Yara and Senna. The holographic display showed 3 expanding rings around the planet, each marking a new stage of the reactivation process. The outermost ring had already reached the stratosphere. Yara rubbed her eyes. At this rate, the entire magnetosphere will realign in 26 hours, the field's strengths climbing by the minute. If it peaks, Bastion 9's orbit will decay. Arian's voice stayed level. Options: evacuation to a higher orbit would buy us time, she said, but we'll lose the low-range sensors. We'd be flying blind. Then we stay until the last safe minute. Senna folded her arms, staring at the projection. The lattice called us inheritors. Maybe the system expects us to monitor it. Yara shot her a look. Or it expects us to obey. Arian didn't answer immediately. The word inheritors gnawed at him. It implied continuity, not accident. Whether it's invitation or trap, he said, we'll decide that ourselves. Mayak entered the command deck, his steps heavy from long hours in the medbay. We've confirmed mild radiation spikes across the station, non-lethal but rising. Whatever's happening down there is affecting orbit. Shielding? Arian asked. Minimal effect. It's not conventional radiation, some kind of phased particle flux. Never seen anything like it. Joran appeared a moment later, carrying a portable console. Before you worry too much, I think I've got something interesting. He projected a field of data above the table. The energy pulses from the planet aren't random. They form a repeating interval 2 minutes, 23 seconds. Yara frowned. That's not a natural harmonic. Exactly, it's a clock signal. Arian leaned forward. Synchronization again. Right, the same pattern Yara found coming from deep space. I compared the intervals, identical. That means the external transmission and the planetary reactivation are timing each other. Senna's tone darkened. Then the planet isn't just reacting, it's communicating. Joran nodded, and whatever it's talking to just started talking back. The holographic map of the system updated. A bright icon appeared near the edge of the Helix cluster, 2 light days away. Faint, but moving. Mech scowled. That thing's traveling. Please tell me it's not coming here. It's vectoring straight toward us, Joran said quietly. Velocity just under .2 light. That's not debris or radiation, that's a ship. Yara exhaled slowly. A ship older than the Guild, older than any known engine design. Arian straightened. Time to intercept. 17 hours. They convened in the mess hall, the only space large enough to hold all 6 of them and their screens. The sound of air recyclers filled the silence. Yara started. If that vessel's responding to the planetary activation, we have 2 possibilities. 1, it's automated, part of the same network. 2, it's crewed. Mayak grunted. I'm not sure which option scares me more. Senna tapped her tablet. The architects vanished millennia before humanity learned orbital mechanics, but if this vessel still operates, then either they didn't vanish or something else took their place. Leo looked between them. We're assuming it's friendly. No, Arian said. We're assuming it's curious. That's enough. Yara pointed at the schematic. If we stay in orbit, we'll be between the ship and the planet when it arrives. We'll look like the interference. Let's not be interference, Mac said. Let us be invisible. Arian nodded. We'll shift to the far side of the planet, maintain visual through remote relays. I want to see how it reacts to the surface before it knows we exist. Senna gave him a searching look. And if it already knows, he met her eyes, then we hope it's as patient as we are. 8 hours later, Bastion 9 slid behind Talmaran's curvature. The planet's storms glowed faintly from orbit, clouds streaked with silver lightning where the energy grid reached the upper atmosphere. The crew's instruments registered interference on every frequency. Yara stood at the navigation controls, adjusting thrusters manually, stabilizing orbit. Mark, relays are live. Arian watched the data stream from the outer sensors. Any sign of the inbound vessel? Still closing, Joran replied. No emissions, no active beacon, just movement, fast movement. Mayak leaned back against the wall, arms crossed. Feels like watching a thunderhead roll toward you, can't stop it, just wait for the strike. Senna whispered, maybe it's not a strike, maybe it's a reunion. Yara's reply was sharp, don't romanticize it, we don't even know what they are. But that's the point, isn't it? Senna said, to know. Arian silenced them with a look. Speculation later, focus now. The minutes dragged. The ship's proximity alarms pulsed faintly, steady, patient. Outside, Talmaran's surface lights flickered faster, mirroring the incoming signal's frequency. Joran's hands froze over the console. Contact, visual range in 60 seconds. The crew crowded the main viewport. Space was empty, then it was. A shadow slid into view, blotting out stars. It wasn't shaped like any vessel they knew. It resembled a shard of black glass kilometers long, edges glowing with faint blue filaments. It moved without visible propulsion, gliding through vacuum as if pulled by thought. Yara whispered, "That's not drift, that's control." The shard halted above the planet, perfectly aligned with the spiral rift below. It emitted no sound, no light beyond the faint pulse of its filaments. Then lines of energy erupted from its hull, thin, geometric, reaching down toward the surface. The ground responded instantly. The planetary grid flared brighter, connecting to the descending beams. A new pattern formed, circular and precise, locking into place. Joran's voice trembled. "They're linking, that thing's docking with the planet." "Symbiotic interface," Yara murmured. "System to system." Mayak muttered, "Or predator to prey." For several minutes, the connection held. Energy levels across the planet spiked, and Bastion 9's gravity sensors recorded a measurable mass fluctuation. Talmaran was getting denser, as if its core were condensing under pressure. Arian watched in silence, his mind racing. He had the sense of witnessing not destruction but procedure, like an ancient machine following instructions long delayed. Senna broke the silence. "It's rewriting the planet's composition." "Terraforming again?" Yara asked. "Maybe stabilization," Senna said. "Maybe something else I can't tell." "Whatever it is," Arian said, "we'll find out." Joran focused the external scanners. "I want a detailed map of that vessel's structure." As Joran adjusted the instruments, a warning tone filled the room. Yara frowned. "Radiation surge, the ship's emitting something new." The holographic projection changed, an expanding cone of energy sweeping outward from the vessel, scanning the orbit. "Detection sweep," she said. "They're looking for us." "Can they see through the planet?" Mech asked. "Maybe not yet," she said, "but when the beam loops around, we'll be in range." Arian didn't hesitate. "Prepare for a silent drift. Power down non-essentials." Within minutes, Bastion 9's lights faded to emergency glow. The hum of engines died. The station floated in darkness, hidden in Talmaran's shadow. The only illumination came from the planet below and the vast ship above it, twin forces locked in ancient communication. Arian felt the weight of the silence press against him. For the first time, he wondered if humanity had crossed a boundary not meant to be crossed, not through arrogance, but through the simple refusal to stop asking questions. Then the comms panel flickered. A single phrase appeared across every screen in the same hybrid symbols they had seen in the rift. "Identified." Yara's breath caught. "They found us." For a long moment, no one moved. The word on the screen glowed like an open wound. Yara broke the silence first. "That wasn't a random burst. It's direct communication, short, deliberate, translated through our own systems." Senna whispered, "How would it even know our alphabet?" "It doesn't," Arian said. "It's reading our system, matching patterns. It's learning." Joran looked pale. "If it can do that, it can breach anything we have. Encryption, firewalls, everything." "Then we shut down every non-essential port," Yara ordered. "No automatic responses, no data handshake. We stay dark." Mayak moved to seal the manual breakers, cutting off the comm array's link to the main grid. The holograms faded, leaving only dim emergency light. Arian stayed at the viewport. The alien ship had not moved. The blue filaments across its hull pulsed faster now, irregularly, like a heartbeat. "It's waiting for something," he said quietly. Yara turned. "Waiting for what?" "Us." He pressed his palm against the cold glass. He didn't know how he knew, but the thought felt absolute. The vessel was aware of them, studying them the way scientists studied microbial life under glass. Not hostile, not friendly, merely curious. Senna's voice trembled slightly. "If it wanted to destroy us, it already would have." "Maybe it's deciding whether we're worth the effort," Mac muttered. Joran adjusted his portable monitor, running it off an isolated power cell. "I'm still getting low-band data. No transmission input, just passive background. But there's something strange." He projected a faint display on the wall, a three-dimensional lattice resembling a spiral, but each line segment flickered at uneven intervals. "This is the structure of the signal they used to identify us." It's not text, it's architecture. It describes something. Yara frowned. Coordinates? No, more like a design. Senna leaned closer. A blueprint, Joran nodded slowly, of the planet. The room went still. The pattern matches the energy grid on Talmaran's surface, he continued. Every node, every conduit, but there's an additional layer, something we haven't seen. Like a second network beneath the crust. Arian said, buried machinery, or something alive, Yara said flatly. No, he said, alive means organic. This is structural, but it might be aware. Bastion 9 drifted silently for the next hour, sensors running on minimal power. The alien vessel remained motionless above the planet, yet the planetary grid continued to brighten. The light now reached the upper atmosphere, visible even through Talmaran's storms. Joran adjusted the external feed. The core readings are climbing again. Whatever process it started, it's accelerating. Any idea what the end state is? Arian asked. None, Yara replied. But if the density keeps increasing, the planet's gravity will start pulling at us. How much time? 6 hours, maybe less. Mayak muttered, I vote we get out while there's still a sky to fly through. Arian didn't answer right away. He stared at the data streams, watching numbers climb without pattern or pause. Every instinct told him to leave, but something deeper told him to stay. Humanity had spent too long walking among the ruins of others, always guessing, never understanding. This was their first chance to speak to one of the architects of those ruins, however indirectly. We're not leaving yet, he said. Yara turned sharply. You saw what that thing can do. If it decides we're a contaminant, then running won't save us anyway. Senna spoke softly. You think it's trying to communicate again? I think it's testing us, he said, and I think we can answer. Joran blinked. How do you plan to do that without opening ourselves to a data breach? Arian pointed to the manual transmission console. Analog, no computers, no digital signature, light and code. Yara shook her head. You want to blink at it? Exactly. A visual signal, basic, controlled, readable only by observation. Senna smiled faintly despite the tension. Human stubbornness wrapped in photons. They set up the external transmitters, simple arrays of shutters over the station's emergency beacons. No circuitry, no automatic feedback loops. Mech worked the mechanical timing gears while Joran aligned the external cameras. Arian programmed the first message by hand, 3 long pulses, 1 short, then pause, a greeting. A primitive one perhaps, but unmistakable. When ready, Yara initiated the sequence. The lights flashed into the void, bright enough to be visible even at planetary distance. For almost a full minute, nothing happened. Then the alien vessel responded. A pulse of light, identical in rhythm, flared from its hull. The same 3 long 1 short pattern, then another variation, short short long. It's replying, Joran breathed. Senna leaned forward. It's mimicking us. Yara frowned, or studying how we respond to repetition. Arian watched the exchange unfold, feeling the tension in his chest shift from fear to awe. Keep it going, change the pattern, make it asymmetric. They adjusted the beacon, sending a new sequence, 2 long, 1 short, 2 long. The alien ship answered instantly with the same sequence, then extended it, adding 3 more pulses. Yara whispered, it's building a syntax. The room filled with the sound of mechanical relays clicking, the rhythm of communication between species separated by millennia. Arian found himself almost smiling. So that's how first contact begins, light and patience. 2 hours passed in cautious exchange. The station's analog logbook filled with transcribed sequences. Each new pattern seemed to correspond to numeric progressions, geometrical references, or mirrored timing. They were forming a mathematical language. Then, abruptly, the ship's responses stopped. Yara froze mid-command. It's not replying. Signal malfunction? Arian asked. No, Joran said, scanning the sensors. It's just quiet. Before anyone could speculate further, a shockwave hit Bastion 9. The station jolted hard enough to throw Senna to the floor. Consoles sparked. Impact, Mech shouted. Negative, Yara barked. Gravitational spike from the planet, the viewport filled with light. Talmaran's surface glowed white-hot along the rift, columns of plasma bursting upward. The ship above it shuddered, blue filaments thrashing like nerves. "Something's destabilizing," Joran cried. "The link's overloading." Arian gripped the console. "Can we pull back?" "Not yet. The planet's gravity just jumped 20%. Engines won't counter it." Mayek slammed his fist against the bulkhead. "Then what?" "Wait." The light from the alien vessel shifted, narrowing into a single focused beam that struck the rift. The plasma collapsed, the brightness dimming. Within moments, the planet's violent reactions stabilized. Joran stared at the readings. "It just corrected the instability." Senna said softly, "It's not attacking, it's repairing." Arian's heart hammered. "Which means it didn't expect the overload either." Yara adjusted her instruments. "Energy output returning to baseline. The ship's beam is decreasing." "Then it's finished," he said. "Whatever it came to do, it's done." They watched as the alien vessel rose from its synchronized orbit, the blue filaments retracting. The planetary glow dimmed until only faint lattice lines remained visible beneath the clouds. Joran whispered, "It's leaving." Yara exhaled. "Good." "Wait," Arian said. "It's leaving something behind." The external cameras zoomed in. A fragment had detached from the main vessel, a small object, no larger than a shuttle, descending through Talmaran's atmosphere in a controlled fall. Mek cursed under his breath. "That's not debris." Arian straightened. "Track its landing coordinates." "Southern hemisphere," Joran said, "near the original rift site." Arian turned toward Yara. "Prepare the descent craft." She stared at him. "You can't be serious." "I am. Whatever that thing dropped, it's meant for us. Otherwise it would have vaporized on entry." Senna's voice was calm, steady. "The last time we ignored a message from below, we almost lost everything. We can't afford to make that mistake twice." Mayek sighed heavily. "We are all insane." "Fine, let's go meet the neighbors." The descent craft separated from Bastion 9 in a controlled fall, cutting through the planet's thin upper atmosphere. Yara handled the controls with practiced precision, her eyes scanning every flicker on the readouts. Below them, the once dormant world simmered with faint blue veins where the energy lattice still glowed beneath the crust. Arian sat strapped beside her, silent but alert. Senna occupied the rear console, monitoring radiation levels. Mek was beside the hatch, a plasma cutter resting across his lap. Joran's portable scanner hummed softly in the background. "Approach vector locked," Yara said. "Landing zone 21 clicks east of the rift's primary edge, the object still emitting a residual field." Mayek glanced at her screen. "Residual or active? Unknown," she admitted. "But it's steady, no pulse, no variation." "Like it's waiting," Arian murmured. The craft rattled as they broke through another turbulence band. Dust and debris streaked across the viewport. Outside, the landscape stretched in endless ridges, black stone glinting under the reflection of three suns. The air shimmered with residual ionization. They touched down on a slope of fused glass. The descent engines cut, and the silence that followed felt heavier than gravity. "Atmospheric pressure stable," Senna reported. "No toxins. We can move on external oxygen for short intervals." "Understood," Arian said. "Suits on anyway. We're not risking direct exposure." The hatch opened with a hiss, revealing the fractured plains beyond. The sky was pale copper, threaded with faint arcs of light from the distant energy conduits. Joran pointed toward the horizon. "There." Half a kilometer, bearing 152. Even from here, the object was visible, a black shard half buried in the ground, glinting with a mirror-like sheen. It resembled a fragment of the alien vessel, yet its edges were too clean, as though cut with purpose. They advanced cautiously, footsteps crunching on brittle rock. As they approached, static built in their comms, soft at first, then rising to a rhythmic crackle. Joran tapped his helmet receiver, getting interference again, localized. Senna knelt, brushing her gloved hand across the ground. "This dust, metallic compounds, it's magnetized, the shards affecting the terrain." Yara raised her handheld meter, field intensities off the scale within 50 meters. "Whatever power source it has, it's still alive." They circled the object slowly, It was roughly cylindrical, 5 meters long, 2 wide, embedded at an angle. The surface wasn't smooth, rather, it was covered in microscopic hexagonal plates, shifting faintly as though adjusting to light. Arian reached out a gloved hand but stopped short of touching. This isn't debris, it's a construct. Mayak eyed it warily. And we're about to open it, aren't we? Not yet, Arian said. We observe first, document everything. Joran set up the portable scanner array, triangular panels folding open like petals. Streams of data scrolled across his visor. It's hollow, internal compartments, low thermal output, no motion. But there's a repeating frequency coming from inside, 2 pulses per second. Heartbeat pattern, Senna said quietly. No biological rhythm, he corrected. Mechanical clock, precise, like it's counting. Counting to what? Yara asked. Don't know yet. They waited, watching the object as the suns climbed higher. The heat shimmered off the rock, and the faint pulse from the shard continued, unwavering. Mech broke the silence. You ever think about what we're actually doing? We see something fall from the sky, walk right up to it, and hope it doesn't explode. Exploration isn't hope, Arian said. It's discipline, curiosity with a safety margin. Yara gave a dry laugh. Feels like that margin's getting smaller by the day. Then the pulse stopped. Joran froze. Signals gone. Power failure? Yara asked. No. It's transitioned. New frequency, shorter wavelength, weight receiving modulation. There's a pattern forming. The shard's surface shifted. The hexagonal plates realigned, forming smooth spirals that converged toward its center. A faint crack appeared along the seam, venting thin vapor into the air. Mech raised his cutter. Here we go. Hold position, Arian said sharply. No aggression. The crack widened. The spirals folded outward with mechanical grace, revealing a hollow chamber within. Inside lay a single object, a metallic sphere the size of a human head, suspended above a lattice of thin struts. Joran's voice dropped to a whisper. It's powered, active field around it. Yara took a step forward. Field stable, no radiation leak, no M-spike. Permission to approach, Arian nodded. Slowly, she moved closer, sensors scanning, compositions mixed, carbon-metal hybrid nanostructured. There's data movement inside, but it's sealed. Translation? Senna asked. It's a storage unit, Yara said, possibly memory. Arian studied it for a long time. It was meant to be found. Mayek shook his head. By who? By anyone who could survive getting this far, Arian said quietly. They transporting the sphere back to the descent craft, sealing it in an isolation capsule. The entire way, the rhythmic pulse resumed, so faint it was almost inaudible, but steady enough to make the air seem alive. Inside the craft, Yara ran an initial diagnostic. No external interface, no obvious control surfaces. But the data flows continuous, millions of operations per second. Then it's communicating internally, Senna said. Thinking, or recording, Arian said. We won't know until we analyze it under controlled conditions. Joran sat beside the capsule, eyes fixed on the faint glow within the sphere. If this is a message, what language could it possibly use? Arian considered the question. Maybe not language at all. Maybe demonstration, like everything else they've done. Mayek grunted. Well, demonstration better not melt the ship. The return flight to Bastion 9 was uneventful but tense. Every creak of the hull sounded louder than usual. They docked with the station, transferring the isolation capsule to the main lab under triple security protocols. Yara sealed the doors manually and disconnected the lab from the primary network. Mech leaned against the bulkhead. So what now? We stare at it until it blinks, Arian said. We listen first, then we test. Yara activated the containment monitors. The sphere's glow intensified slightly, casting long reflections across the room. The air seemed to hum, though the instruments recorded no audible vibration. Joran frowned. You're seeing this, right? The light rhythm changed again. Senna nodded. 3 short pulses, 1 long, repeating. Mayek squinted. That's the same sequence we sent it. Arian met Yara's eyes. Then it heard us. The sphere's pattern repeated, then paused, then repeated again. Yara adjusted the analog receiver. Signal strength minimal but consistent. It's not broadcasting outward, it's waiting for acknowledgement. Arian took a steady breath. Respond with the same sequence. Manual light pulse, 1 cycle only. She nodded and triggered the beacon, 3 short, 1 long. The sphere's light changed instantly, matching their rhythm. Then it extended the pattern, 2 short, 3 long, 2 short. The sequence played twice before fading. Joran's voice was hushed. It's teaching us again. Senna leaned forward. The progression's mathematical, ratios not syntax. Yara began mapping the pulses. These intervals correspond to spatial constants, pi golden ratio base sequences. It's building a foundation. Arian folded his arms. We're watching the beginning of a dictionary. Hours passed as they catalogued every new pattern. The sequence evolved steadily, forming complex relationships, prime clusters, mirrored patterns, expansions of previous strings. It wasn't words in any human sense, but it was unmistakably structured thought. Finally, the sphere dimmed. The data flow within slowed until the instruments read near zero activity. The faint hum faded. Yara exhaled. I think it's done. Or resting, Senna said. Arian nodded slowly. Then we rest too, record everything. Tomorrow we'll see if it wants to continue. Mayek muttered, if it starts asking for a name, I'm out. Despite the tension, the others almost smiled. When they returned to the observation deck, the planet below looked changed. The lattice of light across its surface had nearly faded, leaving faint traces only visible under magnification. The alien vessel was gone, leaving nothing but the quiet orbit and the shadow of its actions. Joran watched the view in silence. It's like it cleaned up after itself. Maybe it didn't want to leave traces, Yara said. Maybe, Arian said, it left one trace, and it's sitting in our lab. He turned toward them, his expression unreadable. We've seen a civilization reach back across time and technology to deliver a message. That message now belongs to us to interpret, but we have to decide what we'll do when we understand it. Senna looked out the viewport, voice quiet but firm. Whatever we do, it has to be human. Arian nodded. Exactly, that's all we have to offer. The lab on Bastion 9 remained sealed through the station's artificial night. The sphere hovered quietly in its isolation cradle, its inner glow reduced to a dull, rhythmic pulse. Arian stood behind the transparent barrier, coffee cooling in his hand, eyes unfocused but awake. He had slept 2 hours at most. Every time he closed his eyes, the sphere's patterns replayed in his mind like a language forming behind his thoughts. Not mystical, mathematical. Structured, deliberate, and somehow humanly readable once he stopped trying to translate it and simply watched. Yara entered, hair unkempt, still in her engineering suit. I ran your data through the secondary array. We're missing something obvious. Arian didn't look away from the sphere. Define obvious. Pattern progression, she said. It's not random expansion. Every sequence ends with a time gap proportional to its numerical sum. He blinked, meaning it's counting its own iterations. Exactly. And there's a threshold. Every 1000th sequence, the sphere pauses for the same duration, 47 seconds, always 47. Senna's voice came from the doorway. So what happens after 47? Yara sighed. That's what worries me. They watched the readouts scroll past, and Arian felt the tension settle in again. The artifact wasn't just teaching, it was timed. Whatever mechanism it used had built-in pauses, perhaps checkpoints, or perhaps safeguards. He turned to Yara. You think it's preparing something? I think it's synchronizing, she replied, and we're the only available system nearby capable of observing the process. Joran entered behind Senna, tablet in hand. Observation or participation? Everyone looked at him. He set the tablet down. The analog recordings we made of the light pulses, they're now producing low-band electromagnetic echoes even when the equipment's off. It's like the data itself has charge. That's impossible, Yara said automatically, but her tone lacked conviction. Not impossible, Arian said quietly, unfamiliar. For the next 12 hours, they monitored the artifact without direct interference. The sphere completed another full 1000 sequence cycle, paused 47 seconds, then resumed. The pattern held, but now faint resonance appeared in the walls, barely measurable but present. The entire lab hummed at subsonic frequencies, matching the sphere's intervals. Mech paced behind the observation barrier. Feels like sitting inside a ticking bomb. Senna replied softly, or a clock that's about to announce the hour. He gave her a weary look. You realize that's not comforting. Yara adjusted the scanners again. Energy output stable, no heat rise, no mechanical change. Then what's it building toward? Mech asked. Information density, Arian said. When the pattern reaches a critical threshold, it may, he paused. It may reveal something. Joran nodded. Or it might need a response again. Let S be ready for both, Arian said. The next pause came at cycle 12,000. 47 seconds passed. Then, instead of resuming the usual rhythm, the sphere emitted a single, piercing tone through the vacuum, too pure for mechanical origin, too perfect to be accidental. The sound passed through the containment field and through their bodies, vibrating bones like an internal pulse. Every instrument in the lab spiked. Yara clutched her headset. Power surge, but it's inverted. It's drawing energy from ambient background, not emitting. The sphere brightened. Within the glow, shapes appeared, shadows of complex geometry twisting and recombining, each transformation fractal and precise. Arian leaned closer. It's showing us something. Project the image overlay. Joran activated the holographic translator. The patterns expanded across the room, three-dimensional blue light, painting the air in crystalline structures. Slowly they resolved into a recognizable form, a world, Talmaran, but this was not the Talmaran they knew. Its surface shone with artificial symmetry, rivers aligned to grids, mountains leveled into perfect arcs, oceans contained in geometric basins. Senna whispered, "This is what it looked like before." "A constructed world," Arian said, "every geological feature designed." The image zoomed inward to the southern hemisphere, where the rift now existed. Instead of a scar, there was a great structure, circular, layered, and glowing from its core. Joran murmured, "That's the lattice site." Then the projection changed again, showing the same location collapsing inward, energy imploding, light fading, the structure sinking beneath the crust. The planet darkened, its atmosphere thinning. The final image froze on emptiness. Mech said quietly, "So whatever civilization built this place shut it down." Yara turned to Arian, maybe intentionally to bury it. "And now," Senna added, "we've turned it back on." The projection vanished. The sphere's glow returned to its steady pulse, unchanged, but the silence it left behind carried new weight. Arian exhaled slowly. "That wasn't a warning, it was a record," Yara nodded. "A message to whoever came after," Joran said, "and we answered it." Arian looked from the artifact to his team. "Then it's our responsibility to understand what they were trying to prevent or preserve." Senna met his eyes. "The difference matters." "Agreed," he said. "Yara, build a deeper scan, non-intrusive, no power link. I want to know if there's more data buried inside that structure." Mayek muttered, "If it wakes up again, I'm locking myself in the airlock." Despite the tension, Yara smirked faintly. "Noted." 2 hours later, Yara's scan revealed a layered architecture inside the sphere, multiple shells of data crystals interwoven with unknown metallic veins. "It's like a mechanical brain," she said. Each layer compartmentalizes information, some active, some dormant, but there's one section I can't read. It's shielded with a field I've never seen. "Can we breach it?" Arian asked. "Physically, yes, but I'd be guessing it could erase itself." "Then we wait," he said. "We earned its attention once, maybe it'll open itself." Mayek frowned. "You're suggesting patience with alien tech sitting in the middle of our station?" "Yes," Arian said simply, "because every other approach ends with us blind." Bastion 9 orbit had drifted slightly since the ship's departure. The planet below looked almost peaceful now, its storm bands dispersed, its electromagnetic field steady, yet the crew's anxiety didn't ease. The unknown rarely stayed quiet for long. Yara ran a systems check. "Gravity fluctuation normal, atmospheric readings stable, we're good." Too good, Joran said. If the reactivation was that powerful, the planet should still be cooling. Senna replied, maybe the lattice redistributed energy efficiently. If it was engineered, it could maintain equilibrium indefinitely. Mayak muttered, or it's storing it for later. Arian said, keep monitoring surface activity. If there's another pulse, I want to know before it reaches orbit. At cycle 23,000, the sphere changed again. The glow deepened to red. The lab's containment systems registered an external data spike, directional, pointed downward toward the planet. It's transmitting, Yara said. Not to us, to the surface. Can we intercept? Arian asked. Trying, she said, fingers flying across the console. No luck. The frequency isn't electromagnetic, it's gravitational modulation. We don't even have the equipment to read half of it. Senna leaned closer to the glass. Maybe it's calling something back. Joran looked uneasy, or giving orders. The transmission lasted 3 minutes. Then the sphere went dark. Every monitor flatlined, the hum ceased. For the first time since they'd brought it aboard, the artifact was inert. Mech broke the silence. Is it dead? Arian shook his head. It finished what it came to do. Yara frowned. Then why are we still here? Before he could answer, an alarm blared. The planet's surface readings spiked again, localized at the rift. A new heat bloom erupted, expanding rapidly. Senna's voice rose. That's not random, something's rising. The holographic projection showed it clearly, the ground at the rift's center splitting apart, molten stone erupting outward. But in the heart of the chaos, a structure ascended, massive, symmetrical, its surface gleaming with the same metallic lattice as the sphere. It climbed from the crust like a machine awakening after ages of rest. Yara stared. It's building itself. Joran swallowed hard. Correction, it's rebuilding. Arian felt cold certainty settle in. The sphere wasn't a message, it was a key. The others turned toward him. He continued, voice steady. It didn't come here to communicate. It came here to reactivate whatever was buried. Senna's eyes widened. Then we didn't just wake up a planet. We woke up something inside it. The rift's eruption consumed half the southern horizon in Bastion 9's sensors. What had been a smooth, scarred valley became a pit of shifting light and molten rock, expanding outward in measured pulses. Each wave of energy carried a precision that defied nature, no randomness, no entropy, just rhythm. Yara adjusted the magnification on the surface feed. The structures extending radial arms, 20 kilometers each, maybe more, they're embedding themselves into the crust. Energy flow? Arian asked. Upward, she said. From the mantle into the construct, it's feeding. Mayak swore softly, feeding on a planet. Fantastic. Joran studied his console. Radiation levels are increasing, but the wavelength's controlled. It's converting heat into electrical potential. Senna murmured, that's how you power a civilization without stars. Arian looked out the viewport where the planet glowed faintly against the black. You think this was their power source? Or their prison, Senna said. The idea hung in the air. Hours passed. The station held steady in orbit, but the gravitational field fluctuated by microns, tiny shifts that made every step feel slightly heavier or lighter in turn. Yara's voice crackled through the comms. We've got mechanical resonance in the outer hull. It's not damage, but it's rhythmic, matching the pulses from the surface. Synchronizing again, Joran said, like the sphere did. Could it reach us? Mech asked. Arian replied, if it wanted to. That silence afterwards said what no one else needed to. The surface feed stabilized enough to give them a clear view. The emerging structure had taken on definition. Circular platforms, layered towers, geometric spires that reached toward orbit. The central column rose slowly, as if time itself moved to accommodate its deliberate pace. Senna's eyes widened. That's not architecture, that's communication. Yara glanced over. How do you mean? Look at the alignments, she said, pointing. Those spires correspond to the same mathematical sequences the sphere taught us. Ratios, spirals, prime intervals. It's writing something into the planet. Joran frowned. Who's supposed to read it? Anyone watching from above, Senna said, which means us. Arian watched the patterns unfold with growing unease. It's broadcasting again, Yara confirmed. Not through light or heat, gravitational modulation across orbital strata. We're inside its signal range. Mayak paced, jaw tight. So what do we do? Respond, hide, run? No running, Arian said. We hold observation, record everything. Joran hesitated. You realize if it's using gravity waves, it's transmitting beyond the system. Yes, Arian said quietly, which means it might not just be talking back to its creators. Yara froze at her console. You think it's calling others? Arian didn't answer. He didn't need to. The slow, steady rhythm of the planet below was already answer enough. At the 20-hour mark, the first external signal arrived, not from the planet, but from the far edge of the system. Senna caught it first. Contact at 200 million kilometers, inbound trajectory, sublight, no registry. Mayak leaned over her shoulder. Human, she shook her head. No transponder, no thrust plume. It's gliding. Trajectory intercept with Bastion 9 in 43 hours, Yara added. Velocity constant. Joran muttered, that's too slow for a natural object. Arian felt the weight of the moment settle over him like the cold pull of space. Then we have two choices, stay and learn, or cut orbit and disappear. Mayek's voice was flat. And if it's coming for us, then we'll find out what kind of civilization buried a world to keep it quiet, Arian said. The sphere in the lab reactivated on its own 6 hours later. The glow returned, but dimmer, and the pulse was no longer rhythmic. It fluctuated irregularly, as though struggling to maintain coherence. Yara watched the readouts, energy reserves dropping fast. Whatever it transmitted drained it. Arian studied the faint flicker inside the containment cradle. It sent its message, and now it's fading. Like a relay beacon, Joran said. Single use. Senna stepped closer to the glass. Or like a messenger that burned itself to deliver something larger. The glow inside the sphere flickered again, once, twice, and then steadied into a single, long pulse. The room filled with faint vibration, enough to make the tools on the tables tremble. Yara frowned. It's producing localized gravity shifts, microscale but directed. Toward where? Arian asked. She looked at the data. Straight down, toward the planet. They watched in silence as the light finally died. The last pulse seemed to echo through the hull, a final breath drawn out into nothing. Arian reached for the intercom. Seal the lab, leave it untouched. Whatever it was meant to do, it's finished now. Mayak exhaled. And down there, Yara checked the feed. Still active, energy output climbing, but it's stabilizing, no surface destruction. Joran said, then it's sustaining itself again. Senna whispered, it's alive. Arian turned toward her, not alive, functioning, don't anthropomorphize it. She met his gaze evenly. If it thinks, learns, and builds, what word would you prefer? He didn't answer. As the station orbited again over the rift, the construct below pulsed once more, bright enough to cast sharp shadows across the ship's hull. Every crew member stood by the viewport, watching the slow awakening of something greater than any of them could comprehend. It's beautiful, Yara said softly. Mek's tone was dry, terrifying kind of beautiful. Senna's expression was unreadable. Beauty doesn't require comfort. Arian's jaw tightened. No, but understanding does, and I intend to get us that. The next transmission from the incoming object reached them 18 hours before intercept. Senna patched the decoded signal through. It's repeating one line, over and over. Let's hear it, Arian said. Static filled the room, broken by a voice that wasn't human, not mechanical, not natural, something in between. It spoke in harsh phonemes at first, then in clear, measured speech. Signal acknowledged, world reactivated, Protocol 9 awaiting verification. The bridge went still. Mek muttered, Protocol 9, what the hell is that supposed to mean? Arian's mind raced. It's an automated confirmation. The sphere transmitted and something out there heard. Now it's sending orders. Senna's hands shook slightly over the console. Orders for what? Possibly for whatever's on the planet, Yara said quietly, or whoever triggered it. Mayek's gaze met Arian's. That be us. Arian's decision was immediate. Prepare the long-range transmitters. We respond. Yara looked stunned. Respond, we don't even know what we're responding to. If we stay silent, it'll treat us as background noise, Arian said. If we answer, we become a variable. Variables can negotiate. Mayek barked a laugh. Negotiate with what? A dead empire's voicemail? Arian ignored him. Patch me through. Senna hesitated, then nodded and keyed the comm. The speakers clicked, and Arian's voice went out into the void, calm and deliberate. This is Bastion 9 Human Research Station. We acknowledge your signal. Identify yourself. Static replied, then silence. For 10 long seconds, nothing. Then the voice returned, clearer, sharper. Verification incomplete. Biological entity registered. Awaiting threshold input. Yara frowned. Threshold input? Arian's mind turned it over. The artifact had called its sequence thresholds. Maybe it needs proof we're the same intelligence that activated it. Joran said, then we repeat its code. Arian nodded slowly. Exactly.